Guilt is a common emotion when grieving, but it's not recognized as a normal stage during the grieving process. And many times, guilt can sound like this. I never got I never got to say goodbye. Hi, I'm Cindy Shumaker, and I help people struggling with grief unpack and manage all their emotions with ease and grace. There are 5 to 7 common stages of grief. There's shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, testing, and acceptance. And these are all pretty well known to most people. And each person has a completely unique experience with any or all of these stages. When you're grieving, many people will encourage you to stay strong or it will get better. And although people mean well, it's common to say things like this to comfort someone because most people just really don't know what to say. It feels awkward. I've experienced my fair share of loss, and after years of reflection, I've come to the realization that there's more to grieving than most people understand. And I want to share 5 things that I wish people had told me, and hopefully they may help you as well. Number 1, grief is another word for unwanted changes. And although losing someone is life-changing, it's not the only reason we grieve. We can feel this intense loss for anything that is significant, like losing a pet, ending a friendship, going through a divorce, maybe moving or relocating, losing a job, estrangement from family, deterioration of health, loss of your youth, or losing a very sentimental item. And all of these are great examples of emotional grief. And we yearn for the loss of what was, what used to be, when we experience those unwanted changes. 2, the advice to just keep strong sometimes accompanies that denial stage of grief, despite the horrible things that are transpiring in your life. And what this translates to is when you have moved through your grief, you're going to find that you have found this strength inside you to survive, even though it doesn't feel like it when your emotional wounds are so deep and so raw. When you get stuck in denial, you won't be able to move forward. It feels like quicksand slowly swallowing you. And it's okay not to be okay. Weakness and vulnerability are very normal. So cry if you need to, scream, withdraw for some much needed self-care. But it's not healthy to linger there forever. That's when unresolved grief and depression start to steal your soul. The next one is guilt. Guilt is this common emotion when grieving, but it's not recognized as a normal stage during the grieving process. And guilt looks like this. Why them? Why not me? Or I never got to say goodbye. Or I should have saved them. Or if only I had fill in the blank. There's this propensity to blame ourselves for what happened and then be riddled with all these regrets. And this is very normal, but very rarely talked about. Nothing good comes from guilt, and eventually you have to let the guilt, the blame, and the regrets go. Because if you don't, it will eat away at you and your health will suffer. And the next one is time does not heal all wounds. Your wounds will always be there, and you're going to have the scars to prove it. Grief gets softer over time, but it never goes away. It's normal to think about your loss many months, if not years later. That is the part of the roller coaster aspect of grief. Your life changed, and your mind will always look for those missing pieces. Acceptance of the loss is that key to healing. And if you can't get there on your own, you may need the help of a professional who offers you that safe space to gently process the loss. And then with that said, acceptance is complicated. Yes, we all want to get to that acceptance part, but it is complicated and nobody tells us that. It's not a finish line that signifies that your grieving has come to an end. That doesn't exist in the real world. Acceptance is this long, winding road, one that you will feel lost on many, many times. You may even find yourself going in reverse, looking in that rearview mirror, and that's okay. Just when you start moving forward, you may get triggered and all these feelings come rushing to the surface again. That's why it's so important to grieve from the beginning, from the start, so it doesn't get complicated down the road of acceptance. It gets complicated, and sometimes it can get really dark and ugly. And as long as you're alive, you're going to grieve. It's a part of the human experience, and you're not going to escape it. Allow yourself to feel it, to acknowledge it, to validate it, and make sure you arm yourself with all the necessary tools to process grief in a healthy way, so your mind and your body don't suffer as time marches on. Because you know what? Time does not wait for anyone, and we must accept the cycle of grief as a part of life. And ironically, I just returned from a funeral right before I recorded this. So if you're grieving, give yourself permission to fully do so. Or share this video with someone you know who's grieving and might be struggling. Or maybe you know someone who's grieving who feels like everything that they're feeling is not normal. They need to hear this. They need to know this. And if you need guidance with any of this, that's what I'm here for. Just reach out to me. Please be patient with yourself and remember, you're never alone. All right. Have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.